Oh, sideways? No, I don't think so. Well, as always, hello from Southern Ontario. It is October 27th today. This vid's a little offbeat from my usual political rants and rambles. I don't know, it'll be, 7 minutes long or something maybe. I'm going to post it, and the question is, when was this written? Who wrote it? The news first broke out in what was midwinter in the Western Hemisphere. A new disease was ravaging the Far East. A virus highly contagious had escaped the laboratory, or perhaps it had been let loose on purpose. No one knew for certain. Political fingers were pointed. Borders were closed, travel was restricted, and fear and uncertainty spread throughout the populace. Daily the news was flooded with images from first the Far East and then from the European nations. Horrid, terrifying images of body bags piled 6 deep, hospitals and emergency medical facilities that had been hastily erected overwhelmed, images of mass graves being dug. By late winter, the Western governments had enacted special measures, granting themselves the power to respond quickly and decisively to counter the threat of this now called global pandemic. As winter gave way to spring, it seemed the pandemic was unstoppable as outbreaks were reported from every nation around the globe. The Western government responded by granting themselves ever-increasing powers to battle this threat. Laws were changed and created daily. The population were handed down instructions on how to comport themselves. By late spring, the Western populace was terrified and accepted without question the government's dictates, as the pandemic had now encompassed the entire world. New words and terms became commonplace: self-isolation, social distancing, essential and non-essential services. By late spring, the governments had surpassed advising and making recommendations to the populace. They were now dictating rules and regulations, what businesses could operate and what were to shut down. Masks, gloves, travel restrictions, etc. What had previously been a matter of choice was now dictated as law. Uncertainty, confusion, and increasing debate spread amongst the populace. Do you actually know anyone that's had the virus? Do you know anyone who's perished from the virus? They asked. As the summer months passed and the governments grew increasingly dictatorial, the question grew and spread rapidly. Do you actually know anyone who knows anyone who knows anyone? By fall, the government's dictates had brought their economies to a grinding halt. Supply chains were broken, the rate of business failures escalated, and food costs began to spiral upward. While the governments reported the number of those with the virus to be increasing daily, it seemed to the populace that the only numbers increasing in an alarming fashion were those of the unemployed, business failures, and bankruptcies. Mid-fall, the government announced there would be no Thanksgiving, no Christmas. A second wave of the virus was coming, a veritable tsunami of the deadly virus, in fact. The populace was to brace themselves. Further restrictions and measures were necessary. By now, many were suspect. It was evident, after all, that no first wave had transpired. The people hadn't dropped like flies. Then a new term entered the populace's lexicon: fake news. End of chapter 1. So I'll leave that, and as much for my amusement as anything. I've posted this in a few days. I'm curious to see what the comments are. Anyways, take care as always.